All right. Hi, guys. We're going to continue with our mystery of the third grade detectives and trying to figure out who licked the envelope from the Amber Lee got from an anonymous person. So, um, we're going to figure out a couple things in this session because when I was reading this yesterday, I was really confused and a little bit clueless on what was going on. I had no idea or why and what was found important. And I'm sure that's happened to you. So I'm going to be rereading the chapter with you guys. And I want you to think about what the author's main idea for this chapter is that they want us to get out of it, what clues we need. Okay? Because when I started to jot down a note, it just didn't make any sense. So I'm going to read this right now, and then we're going to find out what we can do to help us when we get confused. So chapter 7. Well, that's enough reading for today, Mr. Merlin finally said. The class put away their readers. Noelle looked over at Amber Lee. Amber Lee still had her nose in her book and a smile on her face. Somehow Noelle had to make sure that Amber Lee wasn't the first one to tell Mr. Merlin what the question was. She decided to take a chance. I know the question, Mr. Merlin, Noelle said. Do you want me to tell the class? Amber Lee jerked her head around to look at Noelle. Then she jumped out of her seat. Her desk almost fell over. I know the question too, Mr. Merlin, she shouted. It's did a boy or a girl lick the flap of the envelope? Noelle couldn't believe that Amber Lee had beaten her. Noelle could not believe she just screamed it out. She looked over at Mr. Merlin. Oh, please don't let that be the question, she said. She pleaded silently. Well, that's a good question, Amber Lee, Mr. Merlin said, but I'm afraid that's not what a police detective would ask next. He turned to Noelle. What do you think the question is? He asked Noelle. Noelle took in a deep breath. Here goes, she thought. I think the question is, which side did the person start on when he licked the envelope flap? That's exactly right, Mr. Merlin said. Amber Lee started to cry. What's wrong, Amber Lee? Mr. Merlin asked. That's what I was going to say next, Amber Lee sobbed. Well, you didn't even give me a chance to finish. Oh, my goodness, she's a drama queen. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Merlin said. Well, next time, please remind me to give you more time. Amber Lee stopped crying. How can you find out which side the person started on? Todd asked. You unseal the envelope flap scientifically, Mr. Merlin explained. Then you put special chemicals on it. I asked Dr. Smiley to test Amber Lee's envelope. The flap had more saliva on the right-hand side. It decreased as it arched across to the left-hand side. That means whoever licked the envelope flap probably started on the right side and licked to the left-hand side. Mr. Merlin looked around the room. Think about it carefully, he said. Which hand does this person probably use? Amber Lee raised her hand. He probably uses his left hand, she replied. Right-handed people usually lick envelopes from the left to the right, and left-handed people lick from the right to the left. Exactly, Amber Lee, Mr. Merlin said. He looked around the room. I'm glad Amber Lee answered the question. Well blinked. Why, she wondered. You're all going to accomplish more if we work together, Mr. Merlin explained. That's the way good police detectives do it. Noelle bowed her head. She knew Mr. Merlin was talking about her. She raised her hand. Yes, Noelle, Mr. Merlin said. I think we should all work together, too, Noelle said. Amber Lee gave her a funny look, but she didn't say anything. Mr. Merlin smiled. Well, I'm glad that's settled. Who knows what we will have to do next in order to solve the mystery? Todd raised his hand. We have to find someone who's left-handed, he said. Excellent, Mr. Merlin said. That would help you narrow down who might have sent the letter. But it's important to remember that the envelope test isn't always accurate. Some left-handed people start on the left, some right-handed start on the right. Sometimes people start in the middle and lick to both sides. Most of the time, though, left-handed people start on the right and right-handed people start on the left. Mr. Merlin looked at the clock on the wall. Oh my, we need to do science and spelling before recess. So they spent the next hour learning about crocodile words that start with SP. Then the bell for the recess rang. We'll do math after recess, Mr. Merlin said. Then we'll talk some more about our mystery. Well stood up. I can't stand that Amberly, she whispered to Todd. She made Mr. Merlin feel sorry for her. Now I think he wants her to solve her own mystery. Todd grinned. How can she solve the mystery if we solve it first? So I started to write a little post-it on this. And where I got stuck, it helped me now that I reread this, but where I got stuck was if you start on the right and go to the left, you're left-handed or right-handed. And it was then the left to the right. And I was like all confused. Some people start in the middle. So I had to go back. And then I was able to jot down this. If you are right-handed, you will lick from left to right. If you're left-handed, you will lick from right to left. So we need to find a left-handed person. We don't know who's right or left-handed, but you need to know that if the mystery gets kind of crazy and long, that sometimes you need to pause at the end of the chapter and think, what's the main event that happened? It wasn't the drama that Amberly and Noelle had going on. It wasn't about Amberly getting upset and crying. It wasn't about Noelle being all wigged out that Mr. Merlin wanted them to work together. That wasn't the big main idea in this, because it is a mystery. If it wasn't about mystery, then you might be more into the characters' feelings and thoughts that way, their personal stuff. But right now it's a mystery, and so we need to focus on those things. So your job is to read another chapter in a mystery book or start a new one. I know you guys hadn't been reading as much over break, and try thinking, what is the main idea? Don't just jot down anything. I want main ideas. What did my author really want me to focus on? What's the clue? And even in our book, Numbed, there is a mystery that's going to come up. The mystery is, how are they going to be unnumbed? So there's going to be clues along the way to help them. Mathematical clues in that case. But that also helps us out too. All right. Have a good night. I can't wait to see a post-it put into your Knowledge is Power log. And let's go from there.